If you're living life as if you're driving a car, wondering what's around the next corner, you're missing everything right dead in front of you. This is episode 1, season 3, and I am pumped. I've got Luke Rose of Ivory Hours, and we start talking about this dream world and a whole bunch more. So I hope you're ready. Let's do this thing. All right, this is a new bit I like to call the Mad Minute. Now, we've got 1 minute to discuss something I think is very important. And we could take hours. We really could. I want you to imagine you're a car. You're driving. Okay? And all you're thinking about is while you're driving, what's around the next corner. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it? When you pay attention to what's in front of you on the road, that way you're not going to get in an accident. You know? The moral of the story here is when you're paying attention to everything that's going on ahead of the game, you're forgetting to live in the right now. And if you're not living in the right now, where the hell are you living? Better not be behind you, shouldn't always be way ahead of you, because then you're going to miss out on what's right in front of you. How are we doing on time? Almost there. 10 seconds. So, think about the now. Don't worry about the tomorrow, but now. You can change that.
And the lock on your heart is loose. They took you as a child, held their hands over your mouth, taught you how to be passive. But now you're not the only one fighting for your breath, and it's time for us to give them some trouble. Don't need to be afraid of being strange. We're the shadow kids, never giving in to no one, never giving in to no one. And when they tell you to give them a smile, why don't you show them how sharp your teeth are? And when you see them with their violent eyes, why don't you give them back a look they can feel? We don't want revenge, that war will never end. We just want to be human. So now we turned our words into a weapon to tell them we're coming for our seat at the table. Don't need to be afraid of being strange. We're the shadow kids, never giving in to no one, never giving in to no one. Don't need to be afraid of being strange. We're the shadow kids, never giving in to no one, never giving in to no one. Don't need to be afraid of being strange. We're the shadow kids, never giving in to no one, never giving in to no one. Don't need to be afraid of being strange. We're the shadow kids, never giving in to no one, never giving in to no one.
All right, welcome back. That was Shadow Kids. That's a single. Is that correct, Luke?
Yeah, it is the lead single off our new album.
Awesome. Well, I'm sitting down here. I'm in Calgary. You are... Where's home, Luke?
I'm in Toronto now.
Perfect, man. Okay, sweet. Sitting down with Luke Rose of Ivory Hours. Very excited to have you on the show here. Caught your show here in Calgary while you guys were on tour back last week, and just blown away. So it's awesome that you could make some time. So first off, thank you so much for sitting down with me today, man.
My pleasure.
Perfect. And you seem to be much more fit right now and not cacking up a storm. You were a little bit of a respiratory issues on the tour there.
Yeah, I just midweek when we were on our days off, I just like developed a terrible, terrible cold right as we were going into the shows that I was looking forward to most. So got out though okay, and the shows ended up going over. So that was lucky in a lot of ways.
No, yeah, no, it's awesome, man. And I mean, you couldn't have told me otherwise, right? Like you guys were, it was a fantastic show. I when I go to shows, man, I'm kind of the guy that sits on the back. I just kind of observes. I like doing that, watching, like, because I'm a musician too, right? Being the band guy, I'm just watching to see the interaction between. And the first thing I picked up was you and your bassist. Now, bassist name again was
Carson.
There we go, Carson. Holy smokes, that guy! The way that you guys like controlled that stage was it was like magnetic. You could just watch you guys. It was very, very entertaining, and that was the first thing I picked up off your stage performance. So for those listeners that can catch an Ivory Hours show, that would be definitely of best interest. So just wanted to kind of tear into it, my man, and talk to me a little bit about the history of Ivory Hours. Like, where did you guys form? How long you been together? What's the story behind the group?
It's taken a couple of different forms, I guess, over the last almost 5 years. So it was kind of fun to end that tour in Vancouver. That's actually where the band kind of first started. I had began like writing a bunch of songs and stuff in my last year of university when I was in Kingston out here in Ontario. Didn't really play any shows there because the two other members that I was going to get on board were from Vancouver. So finished up, moved out there. My sister Annie came along as well. And then, that was like my first experience of being like in a proper band. So there's a pretty huge learning curve to that for all of us. And we just like, learning how to write music, but also learning how to like run a band and manage yourselves and do merch and book shows and all this shit. So yeah, it was a cool experience, but I definitely enjoyed that city. And then we ended up moving back to Toronto. The rhythm section changed. I found Chris and Tom when I moved back to London, got them on board. Annie ended up leaving the band at one point. I brought a new guy, Lucas, in to tour with us. And then since then, Chris has moved on as well. So we just got Carson in on bass for this tour, which is awesome to hear that you like that chemistry, because it just really feels good playing with him. But that's, his first like couple shows out with us, and it's already going really well. So, I think when you first get into it, you like see bands as this like, kind of unbreakable device, but they're over 5 years, lives change so much, tastes change, like all this stuff that there's just like a lot of development there. But I think it's gone really well. I'm glad to be where we're at, and yeah.
Awesome, man. No, I was gonna say, like, it's rare that you hear about those bands. Like, I think the Pixies is probably one great example where like, that was their first band. Oh shit, right? Like it's so rare that you don't have lineup changes. Like you said, the life changes, and the lifestyle is so hard too, right? And it's you're all over the place, and people get into different commitments. So I hear you, man. It's life of the touring rock star, right? So what kind of influences over the let's talk about like maybe the new album here, Dreamworld. Where did the idea come from that, and what kind of influences are most relevant nowadays to what the sound is, Chemical Makeup?
I have to kind of think of that a little bit. I think, what was I most referencing for? Because for me, I'm really into the recording end of things as well. So there are, I don't know, I kind of pull in from influences from different things for different parts of the process. Some of it is just I love the recorded sound, and for that, like I referenced the new Young the Giant record, that last Arctic Monkeys record, which was like dirtier, grungier. The dude Chad Blake, who mixed that, like a bunch of his other records too, and his general style was kind of an influence for that. What else did I have going? Like I always have like kind of like folksier kind of influences that I more so try and pull like lyrical influence from at this point, not like arrangement.
Right.
I've got really into Andy Schaaf,
Oh yeah.
a brilliant Canadian artist. Who else is in that realm here? I gotta see. I don't know. Like Phoenix is always going to be a kind of an influence for us. I feel like I'm always going to kind of drift between this record's more of like an alternative record. There's a couple ballady kind of sounding songs on it, some overdriven like guitar walls and that kind of thing. Just a departure from the dancier kind of stuff we did on the last record, but I can already feel myself like kind of missing that a little bit. The more shows that I play, so I think those two things are always gonna swirl and kind of go back and forth.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I picked up. Like even listening to the opening track that we played before we started speaking here, Shadow Kids. That song, it's got a lot of like. It definitely got a lot of pop influence too, and another group that you didn't mention in there that I kind of hear and I noticed this immediately was the Neighborhood and Phoenix, and you mentioned that, and that's like in the best kind of way, like because those groups are like lyrically, I don't think that they're given enough credit for, and I love the way that the arrangement works. I love the melody that you guys put out there, and it's just like that was a really captivating show. I think you guys stole it, so it was a lot of fun. It was you say the dance stuff too, right? That's super important because you had that whole room. I think I said that to the majority of your group. I'm like, you'd never know you guys weren't from here, man. You had everybody moving. It was great. It was awesome.
That's a thing that like. I don't know. It's so fun to perform that kind of music live. I'm always going to have to kind of, I think, strike a balance between that and because you can't have every song be like super upbeat and jamming like that. But like, it's pretty hard to beat that in a live context when people are jumping and like dancing and singing along, man. It's super, super fun. So
absolutely. No, I hear you. That's when I go to those shows and I'm not in a band at the time, I'm always like, fuck, I gotta get in a band again, seriously, because it's so much fun to be a part of that on the stage. So I love that stuff. I love the atmosphere. You guys killed it. It was fun. So moving a little bit away from that, you mentioned like some of the lyrical context and stuff. I want to talk to you about maybe like the influence that's not music related. What do you get up for every day? What kind of things in life really motivate you to keep doing this?
I don't know. Like I was trying to, when you sent me that note, I was trying to think of non-musical stuff. Like I feel like everything in my life has some kind of musical connection. Like all the people that most friends of mine, most people that I hang out with, most activities like are people I've met through music in some capacity or something like that.
Absolutely.
So I don't know, kind of hard to separate those things, but these days, I don't know, like aside from music, I like I like natural kind of beauty, going on canoe trips and cooking a little bit as well. That kind of thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like the lifestyle stuff. That's cool. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. No, that's cool, man. So now moving forward into it, you got the new album, you got the touring. You mentioned like most of your life is very music centric. So like what's the biggest challenge with that, do you find, like for yourself and maybe with the group as well, kind of conglomerate? What's the biggest challenge out of the rockstar lifestyle, man?
Well, I mean, rockstar lifestyle is maybe a little bit of a myth, but
right?
Because I mean that inside of that, like we don't have, I don't have like a manager taking care of me or like a label who's dealing with like everything that happens with this band is something that I'm doing in this office, like working on any of the like promo stuff or booking these shows and all that kind of stuff. So the challenge for me is striking a balance between those things and trying to still remember like that the core of the thing is music and trying to become better at just expressing raw emotion. And so but I'm in a really good place again where like I hadn't written much. I finished the album, had a really nice summer of just like going out on these trips and stuff like that, and then this tour, and now I feel like really hungry to create again, which is nice.
Oh, that's great. Well, yeah, let's take it down that road then. Talking about the new album,
The next track we'd like to play here is actually the title track. Is that correct? That's Dream World. So talk to me a bit about maybe the story behind the writing process on that particular track, and then the album as a whole. How does it tie together as being the title track?
I was actually just transferring a bunch of voice memos the other day, and I had forgotten how long the process was of writing that song. But I think it's like impetus came from an old voice memo from like a couple years ago that I listened to when I was getting back into writing. Just kind of picked up this riff and worked off of that. And it went through some pretty significant changes, like a bunch of different choruses and stuff like that. But the general sentiment of that tune is just, I don't know, just like being able to understand, I think, what a spiritual experience is, and kind of opening up yourself to the idea of that happening outside of like a religious context, essentially. Like I think when you see like a beautiful sunrise or something like that, or when I'm out on like one of these canoe trips, there'll be several moments in that of just like pure bliss, where you're just like, oh sweet, I'm this tiny little thing, there's a whole gigantic huge universe out there, and that's great because I'm just a little blip just floating along, and I'm gonna die and become part of this thing. Like that's so significant and amazing to me. And it's like, I don't think that you need this whole big book or all these rules to like tell you how to interpret that experience. I think that's enough in and of itself. And so that's what the song is trying to say essentially, is where the chorus is, we're living in a dream world, so don't forget it. And it's just that simple, that those experiences are there, available to you, if you look for them, and as such.
No, that's awesome, man. No, it's great. Well, without further ado, I'll let you take it away here. You can intro your track and your group here. It's all on you now.
All right, hey there, it's Luke still from Ivory. We're gonna play you the title track for the new record. It's called Dream World.
Late night, walking on my own. Street lights, smiling in the cold. At peace, the city sleeps, so quiet I can hear it breathe. Sunrise, nipping at the heels of dawn, and the pale moon's gone. I see them float through the trees, white clouds like they're coming up from a dream. A dream, a dream, like they're coming up from a dream. A dream, a dream. We're living in a dream world, so don't forget it. We're living in a dream world. We're living in a dream world, so don't forget it. We're living in a dream world. Warm sun licking at my tears, old songs swimming in my ears. Shiver running down my spine, feel my body disappear. God's a word that's abused, too tired from overuse. The divine is inside of me, waiting in the wings to be woken up from a dream. We're living in a dream world, so don't forget it. We're living in a dream world. We're living in a dream world, so don't forget it. We're living in a dream world.
All right, welcome back. You just heard Dream World. That's Ivory Hours. I'm sitting down with lead singer, guitar, the man right here, Luke Rose. Luke, I know I'm putting you up on this pedestal. You're like, oh shit, man, who is this guy, right? I'm just a guy playing music, right? And that's the key, right? I think that translates. I think if we want to take it that road, watching your group, you guys clearly love what you're doing. I want to talk to you about where you see yourselves in the next little while. Where does Ivory Hours go, and what's the plan ahead here?
I think for me, I just like said there's a couple different modes, because sometimes really good things like come along that you don't expect and they entirely change your trajectory, but you also can't count on those people or those opportunities coming into your life. So, like one version of that is I'm going to start working on another album. We'll probably do a little bit more touring on the spring, but in the springtime, I think. But ideally for me, I would like to get out touring with some bigger bands, and there's a lot of politics to making that happen. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that's why we've been going out doing these tours ourselves and doing the DIY kind of thing, just to prove that, we can get out there and do it, and we can, have people see us who've never heard us before in Calgary and enjoy the show. And for me, that's like an entirely scalable experience. Like if you just put that in front of a bigger crowd who's there to enjoy a band who's also similar to us, like I think we can kill that. So that's what I'd be looking forward to doing the most in the next little bit. In terms of making more music, like thankfully I've got a lot of resources to do that. So there's not, a ton holding me back from writing and recording more, which I'm really excited about. And yeah, the rest of it, can depend on some relationships developing, that kind of thing. And the ultimate goal is, just to make the entire thing sustainable, to be able to tour the world and stuff like that, and for everybody to be able to live off the project. But it's funny that like you talk to people who are a step above us and the step above of that even, and everybody, even those people are still like working for the next level. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you just kind of keep pushing, I think, and.
Yeah, you gotta love. I think what I've learned too from the experience is like you gotta love the process rather than the product, right? Because the product may never actually happen in your head, because you said like everybody, even those guys that are like 2 or 3 steps ahead of where you're at, or the group under you, those guys they're still climbing, right? So you gotta love the process.
Right, there's always a new market somewhere. There's bands who are crushing it in Canada who go to the U.S. and nobody knows who they are. And they'll have these super humbling experiences. The same thing happens for us on a smaller level when we like play a huge show in Toronto or London, and then go out to Lethbridge and play to like 20 people, 15 maybe.
Exactly, right.
And it doesn't mean you like work any less hard or whatever. You play the same kind of show, and hopefully you convert a couple of those people and they tell their friends. But if you let that stuff bum you out on a large level, you'd never make it.
No, exactly. No, great point. I want to put you on the spot a little bit before the next guided question, though. If you had to build it, you just kind of sparked something with me. If you had to kind of give those bands that are a couple steps under from where you started, they're just starting out, they're green bands. What's the first piece of advice that you might give somebody?
I think like anybody in the industry will always start with saying the music, and that's always going to be the fundamental thing. But as long as that's there and you've got a tight band and you practiced and all that kind of stuff, I think the next thing is just like teaching yourself how to operate like a bigger band in terms of management and booking yourself, and realizing that nobody's going to do that shit for you, and realizing that each of those takes a skill set that you have to develop, and that's why the people who devote their entire life to being an agent, to being a manager, to being like an A&R person, because it takes a lot. And though your like main goal is to be a musician, you have to like kind of play those roles until someone takes over.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that. Now, you guys been doing this for a few years, so I know there's a lot of road life. What kind of road life story have you got? Anything that sticks out from maybe even the last tour here?
From this one, I mean, all of it. I mean, nothing too crazy. We're not like partiers or anything like that, because I can't afford to party for my health, and just because I have all these things to do every day that I can't do that. But I mean, that was a pretty epic drive home this time. Same thing we did back from Revelstoke last year as well. But yeah, I don't know. I can never think of like a crazy story.
That's cool, because that gives me a good lead into like the whole purpose of this whole thing as a podcast. I mean, that's the idea, is to dispel the rumor that we just got some radio play on this whole music fit business, which is the idea of the lifestyle that, rock star, it's totally changed. It used to be, trash the hotel, get wasted and get paid in beer. And it's really not like that anymore. It's like, yeah, you mentioned canoe trips. You're much more namaste, right? We have a lot more down regulation because we treat ourselves much more like professionals, right? So maybe on the flip side, what kind of stuff do you enjoy outside of like the canoeing kind of thing? Like what kind of things you say your health and fitness. So what other kind of things are you doing to take care of yourself?
I mean, I can't say that I'm health and fitness. I'm actually a terribly, like from a physical activity point of view, a fairly unhealthy person. But yeah, because I don't know, once in a while I'll go for a run and then I forget to do it because I'll just get here and get. I'm also very like obsessive, so
Right.
I spent like 6 hours like researching every part that's in a jazz master because I want to build one.
That's wicked, man.
But I'm also really into craft beer. Like I really appreciate a really good beer, and that's what's exciting about tomorrow. We're releasing like a collab beer that we did with a brewery in London, which turned out really, really cool. So that's not health related, but
it's kind of.
I do I still like drinking a bunch of beers and stuff. But yeah, like you're saying, I mean, the only way to really make it work, I think, in music at this point, unless you do have that grand structure around you of people, of like support system of people to take care of all these things, is that you have to treat it like a job. And like, I don't go to my jobs and get fucking wasted. Like, it doesn't really help anything. Though when you're off your job and you're on a canoe trip and you got a backpack full of 72 tall boys, they got to go somewhere. So
absolutely, man. No, it's all about it's navigating the lifestyle, right, and making sure that you can make with what you have, right, and half the time, like the people, like even the people that picked up my book, and they're like, man, we just need this to navigate this, just because it's like, holy, on the road it's like a totally different thing, but when we come home, it's nice to like get back to like, focus, right? And if you're out partying and going crazy, you can't do that, right? So yeah, you hit it, man. That's great. Let's close things down here. Talk to me about the last track we got here is Only One. What's the scoop on that track?
Only One is kind of like the last vestige of this these like unrequited love songs that I used to write about somebody. And so that's kind of, I think, the like penultimate one in that like realm, and I think it kind of like sealed the jar of that like bit of emotion. So yeah, it's a really emotional song, and there's like a bunch of like hurt in it, but also understanding that a person there's no reason that a person should take you back. Like, you weren't right for that person. You probably still aren't right for them, but it's just basically reflecting on just like what it feels like to not be able to be with somebody who you really loved.
There. Well, what a way to end the show here. I want to thank you so much for your time. I'll get all the links in here into the show notes. We'll get this thing up and running, and in the meantime, man, anything I can do out west here to help you guys out and establish a little bit more of that. I know how it is on coming from the east to the west and back and forth and all that kind of thing. We want to make sure you got a good spot. You always got a home here in Calgary, that's for sure. So it was it was awesome to catch you guys and sit down and chat today and kind of learn a little bit more. And if we can help you out west here, you just say the word, man. So thank you so much for your time. I'll let you close the thing down here with your intro to your track.
Alrighty, you're listening to Only One by Ivory. Have a good one.
Help me, you're the only one I'm missing. Help me, take away the hole in my chest where my heart was and disappeared when you left. This time, don't you feel it happening? This time, I swear to you, I feel it in my blood. Either I'm crazy or we're meant to be in love. So pull the trigger. I gotta know now how it's gonna be. 'Cause I can't make you love me, but I hope you might still be waiting for me. I know you're the only one for me. I know you're the only one. You're the only one. Help me. I tried to get away, but I can't. Help me. You run through my veins like a drug. And when I'm with you, I'm twice the man I ever was. My love, now I know I'm ready. I turn myself inside out. I know I fucked up, but I gotta get you back somehow. So pull the trigger. I gotta know now how it's gonna be. 'Cause I